Awesome.
Okay, we can get started.
All right. So we're going to kind of take this through licensure, what it takes, what it looks like, how the process works. And then the second section will be how Teach Colorado can help you. And then the final session will be a Q&A session, and highly recommend that you write those questions down because there are people here who can hopefully get those questions answered. I know if Heather doesn't have the answer, then she is bound to find it somewhere. So I'm always impressed by her skill with answering questions. So definitely take advantage of that, and we'll get started with how are you going to get licensed? So the first thing, I'm going to kind of veer away from the slide a little bit, but just go over what Colorado expects. So in order to be a teacher in Colorado, if you go the traditional route, then what that would look like is getting your degree in elementary education, maybe math education, some type of education. You would get your degree and all the things that come along with getting your degree. So there's testing involved, student teaching, and all the coursework. So if you're going the alternative route, Colorado is still going to require those things, just maybe it's going to look a little different. So Colorado, if you're going the alternative route, they're going to require a bachelor's degree. They want extra coursework to kind of help you get ready to be a really successful teacher. They want testing in your endorsement area. And then also there's going to be observation hours. So you won't necessarily do that student teaching piece because you will be teaching. So instead of student teaching, you'll be observing teachers. And so I am so sorry. My phone is making all of this weird noise, but it's recording everything I'm saying right now. So let me make this stop so that somebody doesn't get a weird Teach Colorado text message from me. Thank you for being patient. That was distracting.
Okay, that's good.
So the steps to teacher licensure, kind of right in front of you, you got to decide, are you going to go through the traditional or the alternative pathway? Once you decide with whichever route you want to take, then you would find and apply to an approved educator prep program. Your program is going to make sure then you get all those other requirements like the testing and the observation hours or the student teaching, all of the pieces. Your program is going to be really vital in helping you get all those pieces put together. And then once you have all of the pieces in place and you've met all the requirements, you'd be able to apply for your initial professional teaching license. So deciding what to teach, there's a lot of options out there. I would say definitely stick with something that you're interested in, something that you're passionate about, something that you can see yourself doing for the long term, and doing day in and day out. So I teach 5th grade math and I teach 3 classes of it. So 3 90-minute sessions of 5th grade math, and that's all I do all day long, and I love it. So since I find enjoyment in it, I never find myself frustrated or bored or things like that. When you're teaching, I kind of feel like people find their niche, find their age group, find their area pretty quickly. So that's one thing to think about. Another thing is if you're not sure, it's always good to maybe look at what's going to increase your job prospects. So shortage areas, we have that in this box over on the side. I feel like almost all the endorsement areas are getting added to that shortage area. So we definitely have a shortage of people, good teachers in Colorado. So that's another way to kind of look into it. And then building flexibility, maybe looking at what jobs are open in the district you want to teach in. That might allow you to be flexible enough to, if you're hoping to be a middle school science teacher, but there's a high school science position open, maybe that's something that you could do if you're just allowing that flexibility. Just knowing that there's always going to be that opportunity to move once you get your license. That's the great thing about teaching, is you can add endorsement areas onto your license once you have your license, and it's a fairly pain-free process. So one thing you're going to want to know is kind of what are your requirements? What are you going to be expected to do? So the alternative licensure is in the yellow boxes. These are this is what the alternative looks like. You do have to have your bachelor's degree to start out with, and it doesn't matter necessarily what that bachelor's degree is, as long as it's from an accredited institution. You would be teaching full time while you're enrolled in your educator prep program and taking those extra courses to help you prepare to be a fantastic teacher. You would be earning teacher salary and benefits right away. So they're hiring you for that job, and that's going to be the agreement. Even though you don't have a license yet, the agreement is you're working on the steps, you're taking the classes, you're doing the testing in order to get that license. One of the great things is, I believe your school district and your educator prep program, they're going to support you the whole time. It sounds like a really scary idea of stepping into a classroom when you have never been trained to teach, but you do have quite a bit of support in the whole process. So just another thing, your educator prep program, when we talk about that, that's just that's the extra coursework, the classes you will be attending to help you with your grade and your subject area. There's student teaching, internship opportunities to help you practice, and you will be demonstrating mastery through those tests. So one of the things you've heard me talking about a lot is the educator prep program. So the educator prep program is where you're going to get your coursework. It's the teaching program that's going to help you prepare to be a fantastic teacher. There's different program outcomes. Maybe you don't have your bachelor's degree yet. There are programs where when you finish, you will come out with your bachelor's and your licensure. Other programs, maybe you'll finish with your master's in licensure, and then yet again, you also have the alternative licensing path. So those are the different outcomes. You definitely want to think about which outcome are you willing to do, what fits in with your life, where you're at right now, your time, your commitments, things like that. We have a really great tool, and I think Heather's going to demonstrate it right now for you.
This is my favorite part.
I know, because it's so awesome. So this is what the tool looks like on Teach Colorado. You can see over on the left-hand side, she has Find a Teacher Prep Program highlighted and clicked on. And this is the screen that it's going to bring up, and you have those different outcomes available to you. So once you decide which one you want, you would click on it, and it's automatically set to Colorado, and then you'll click Find Programs. And what I love about this is it puts all of those programs available to you in one easy, it's almost like it's shopping. They have these great thumbnails. They're going to tell you the cost of the program, upcoming deadlines, the duration, the format, which is very important. And it's all just right there in front of you. And then if you pick one, so we like to demonstrate CU Aspire. It's one of the most popular schools in the Denver area. So let's say you're interested in this one. You can click on it and it'll open it up. And Teach Colorado has gone through and done a lot of the research for you and made it very user-friendly. You can go in and you can just read about the program. It'll have a lot of information for you. I love this part right here. This is like the middle of it. It's given all the stuff you need. If you keep scrolling down, it'll even go into details about program, like maybe what do you do this first semester? What do you do the second semester? They're going to have financial aid, licensure areas. So everything you would need to know about the program is going to be right here on this page. And then if you decide you want to dig even further, there is that little blue button. It's down on the bottom, or it is up here in the right-hand top. It's visit the website, and that'll take you directly to that school website. So definitely a great tool, something that you can use to help you choose the program. Know also that sometimes your school district will already have a program of preference that they want you to use, but this is just a great opportunity if you do have that choice, kind of just to lay it all out in front of you. So. All right, so once you decide which program you have, there's a little checklist button on the bottom too. If you notice that when Heather was demonstrating it, it would give you a checklist if you're ready to apply. Make sure you have this, make sure you've gathered this. Those are really great tools to use because every program is going to have their own requirements, their own processes, their own deadlines, things like that. So it's really nice to hit that checklist and it'll help you kind of go through the process. Some of the things to look at is your GPA. Is your GPA high enough to enter into the program? What does the coursework look like? What are the testing requirements? And what that means is like alternative licensing. Sometimes the programs are going to want you to take those tests before you even enroll in their program. And I say sometimes, but I mean probably most of the time. There's a few programs where you take the test at the end of the program. So those are kind of some of the testing requirements that you're definitely looking for to make sure you're staying on time. You might also need things like essays, interviews, references, letters of reference, things like that. You definitely want to get organized before you start applying. So a few pro tips for applying. We already talked about that GPA. Make sure that you are kind of fitting in what that college is looking for. I talked about testing on the last slide. Most of the educator prep programs, they're going to ask you to take the praxis test in your endorsement area before you ever enroll in their program. And that just is the way this fits in that alternative licensing process. You've been hired to do a job and they're going to train you to do the job, but they want you to take that test first to prove that what the state of Colorado calls it is to prove competency. So to prove that you have knowledge of the subject matter that you're about to teach. And so I always recommend this is one of your first steps. So as soon as you start applying for jobs, I would also start readying yourself for that praxis test. If you know you're going to be a secondary math teacher, go ahead and get that math praxis test taken. It's good for 10 years once you pass it. So there's no harm in getting it done early, and it'll just speed along your process if you can get it done early. Another thing to do is definitely look for those materials. I always feel like those letters of reference or asking people if you can put their phone number down as a reference. Those things definitely need to be done ahead of time because if applications are coming up and they're due, you don't want to miss that opportunity because you didn't have that stuff already gathered and ready to go. So that was kind of just the real quick blurb about licensing and what that looks like and kind of the steps in the process. So before we get into our Q&A questions with your, the Q&A time with your really specific questions, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about how Teach Colorado can help. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and kind of jump into that. One-on-one coaching, that's one of the things that Teach Colorado offers. That is my role in Teach Colorado. What you get to do with this is you get to sign up for a 20-minute call with a coach. And I believe there's 5 or 6 of us in Colorado. And you just ask your questions. You tell your story, you tell the journey you're on, and your coaches will try to help you fill in the blanks, any questions you have, give you a real clear-cut plan of what steps are next, and just really help you along in the process. And you can schedule those calls on Teach Colorado. There's a link on there and it'll bring up all of our calendars. You can pick and choose based on our bios, or you can just click next available and it'll bring one of us up and we're able to kind of guide you through the process. When we're finished, we send you an email full of links and steps and more information than you could ever want. So it's a really great tool to kind of look into. And also the group sessions, which is what you're doing right now. Teach Colorado also has how-to guides from experts. I love this about Teach Colorado, and my family and I have used a lot of these how-to guides. They're very, very comprehensive. They're very helpful. Lots of information in them. And all it requires from you is just subscribing to the Teach Colorado website. There's not anything other than you get an email maybe once a month full of information, job openings, things like that. So that is the commitment on your side. But then you get full access to the site. And how-to guides. We'll have how-to guides for financial aid, how-to guides for preparing your resume, for asking people for reference letters, anything like cover letters. All of that is included in these how-to guides. And they're very comprehensive. And I think the resume and the cover letters, my son used when he was applying to some colleges, and they just look really professional and they're very easy to use. So definitely take advantage of that. One other thing that Teach Colorado is doing is we have our own scholarships that we give out. August 31st is the deadline for 11 of them. So we have 11 $1,000 scholarships that we're giving out. And then after that, we do, I think, 4 or 5 throughout the rest of the year. And we also have fee reimbursement. So there's $100 fee reimbursement that you can use for anything related to this process. So testing fees, licensing fees, study guides, anything like that, you can get that $100 fee reimbursement, which really comes in handy, especially if you want to buy a study guide for the praxis test, then you just know you have that money. So we have the live chat. That box popped up when Heather was demoing. There's 24 hours a day. There is this live chat over there, and it's actually pretty efficient. So you can type in your question, try to get you where you need to go so that you can see the information that you're looking for. And Teach Colorado is also, they put in so much work trying to diversify the profession, anything and everything. They've got filters on scholarships. You can look for your cultural background, your religious background. There's all kinds of things that they are doing, trying to support people and get anybody who has the dream of being a teacher into the profession. There are, I'm trying to think of like scholarships. I think I already said that. We have special sessions targeting Black and Latino teachers. There is just a lot of stuff. So they're really building a support system for students and career switchers who are just wanting to get into the profession. So Teach Colorado is on all the socials. Definitely want to check that out. You might see it's always bright. I feel like we're always eye-catching and bright colors and things that are going to catch your eye. Just kind of trying to keep everybody in the loop and being able to see all the new and exciting things that we're trying to do to get people in the profession. So now is our Q&A session. So anything that you thought of while we were teaching or while I was presenting, I would love for you to ask us those questions and maybe we can get those answered for you.
And then also when you have a moment, there is, oh, I guess we were supposed to put a link to the survey in the chat. I will do that. And then if we can get you to fill out the survey, and if you have questions, I know there are some questions in the chat that we can get started. So while I'm looking for the link and posting that, we can start with the first question. And it came from, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize, Mamta, and they're interested in teaching special education and really want to know what it takes to teach special education in Colorado.
So Special education, you can go the alternative route. You can also go the traditional route. Special education involves a lot of law, a lot of extra education to be able to know all of the pieces that go into it, especially just there's a lot of law involved. So the special education courses for alternative licensing do take extra time. Some programs you could get them done in a 9-month period, a 10-month period. Special education is generally going to take 24 months or longer, even through the alternative process, just like I said, because there is so much involved in it. And just wanting to protect you and protect your students and make sure that things are so that you know enough to be able to be successful in there. You can also go the traditional pathway. They do have that pathway, a special education teacher as a bachelor's degree as well. So I don't know if that answered. I hope it did.
Let's see here. Looks like we have a hand raised, and is it Oyayami or I'm if you want to answer your oh, there you are.
Oye,
Oye,
yes, I'm Oyeyemi.
Oyayami.
Thank you. Yes, I was the one that asked that question, that what does it take to teach special education in Colorado? And I want to appreciate the last answer, that I can go through the alternative route or traditional pathway, and that maybe getting the license will take about 24 weeks, and I wouldn't mind that. But my question is, as it is presently, I have first degree, I have my master's degree, and the PhD I have is also in special education. So
Okay.
what do I need to do to be able to teach? I want to leverage on that special education. My first degree is in English education, while my second degree is in counseling psychology. I just finished another master's degree in special education, but I got my PhD 2017 in special education, and I've been working in special school, College of Education. Presently, I've been working for the past 4 years with children with various forms of disabilities and special needs. So, and I want to take my teaching career, to, international. That's why I've been sourcing for the opportunity to come out there to come and teach and learn the best practices as it relates to children with special education needs and disabilities. So I really need a kind of assistance and how to go about getting this teaching uh, opportunity at Colorado. And the next question is, after we have gone through the training, get the license, and we possibly get teaching job in Colorado, are you going to process the visa, or how do we come over?
Okay, so you have a lot of questions, and I think I can answer most of them. If you already have a teaching credential in your home country and
Yes.
teaching experience, you may not need to complete a teacher preparation program.
Right.
So what you would need to do is have your transcripts evaluated by a NACES member organization.
Okay. Yes, I have
And
done that.
okay, so in that NACES, and you'll obtain a course by course equivalency report. On that report, it will provide information about the teaching program that you've completed. It should also provide information about the degrees that you've obtained.
Mm.
When you submit an application for a license, you'll include that report along with your work experience as a teacher, and then licensing will review that application and issue you a license or authorization based on what you submit. And then oftentimes what may be remaining, depending on your application, is that you may need to complete the praxis. But it really depends on the type of coursework that you've taken. The visa, oftentimes teachers, international teachers, will come to Colorado on a J1 visa. And you would need to first secure a teaching position in Colorado, and then ensure that the school district that's hiring you, then you would find a sponsor organization.
Okay.
So a lot of J1 sponsor organizations will also assist candidates with recruitment and placement. But at the Department of Education currently, we do not sponsor visas. That would be up to the hiring district.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So going back to the questions, I think there was a question, says, I'm a physics teacher. Are there any programs to improve English level? So again, it's going back to if you are a physics teacher that's credentialed outside of the country or outside of the state, you can use your credential to apply for a license. And depending on the years of experience that you have and the type of license or credential that you have, licensing will review your application and determine what type of license that you qualify for, and issue you that along with next steps. In terms of English proficiency, there is a program. It's a relatively new program. It's offered through PEBC, and it's known as the New American Pathway. And as soon as I can pull it up, I can put that link in the chat. And so that might be a program worth looking at. And it starts with kind of understanding the American classroom. It also helps give time and space to understand what the role and responsibility of a teacher is. And that program is about a year in length. Kyle has a question about what is the best math praxis study platform?
So I always recommend their study guide that they have. I think it's the most comprehensive. It has the type of questions that you're going to need to be answering. It has the format that they're going to be in. So I think that their own study guide is one of the best ones I've come across. My favorite one is kind of no longer. They used to do, Khan Academy used to have a program where it was pretty comprehensive, and it would take you through studying for the praxis test. But I have been told by a few people that they have not been able to get into it. So they feel like maybe that's not existing anymore. So those are that's probably what I would recommend. Also, Praxis Company, there is a praxis test. And I think that one's highly beneficial as well, because they set the time limits and they set up the questions just like they're going to be on the test. And so it gives you an idea of where you're at and kind of what you need to study and what direction you need to go. 240 tutoring, there's also a good resource as well. They have online tutoring opportunities to help you study for that praxis test also.
Thank you. That's what I needed.
Okay. I will see if I can find my links and put them in the
I put 2 links in the chat.
there you go.
One is to the praxis.ets.org, and there's a place where you can click on free resources, select the test, and they will email you that 20-page study companion that Sarah was talking about. And then I also put a link to 240 tutoring in there as well. So, and then the Praxis or ETS, they have, it looks like they've partnered with study.com, and they also have some resources available. Both 240 tutoring and study.com run about the same cost. It's generally $50 a month. No subscription amount of time required. You cancel at any time, and so you just pay for it monthly until you feel like you're ready to go. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mm.
Let's see. Looks like there's another question about is certification needed to begin as a teaching assistant in pre-K or early childhood?
So I don't believe that certification is necessary for a teaching assistant. If you were the lead teacher, I believe you would need to be certified. In like early childhood, if you're talking anything kind of before kindergarten, that's going to kind of be the same thing. Once you become the lead teacher, there is certification, and that can be done with that nifty tool that Heather showed you. There's a community college pathway, and there's quite a few early childhood education pathways through community college that don't require necessarily a bachelor's degree or anything like that to start. So if you're interested in that lead position, definitely look into that.
Yeah, I'm also going to put in the chat an email address. It's got a lot of E's in it, but it's ececareernav@cde.state.co.us. So you can copy and paste it. That will email. We have at CDE an entire team dedicated to early childhood career navigation. And they know all the different types of credentials and qualifications needed to be in a early childhood setting. So I would recommend making a one-on-one coaching call with Teach Colorado's early childhood experts, or email CDE and that email address, and they can get you the answers.
I wrote that down too, Heather. Thank you.
Yeah.
That'll help when I have ECE candidates call.
Yes, they are a fantastic team because CDE does its own licensing, but I would say that's like the most stringent requirement. And then there's all different types of qualifications that you can earn. That's kind of less, that requires less than the CDE licensure. So, and they know it all.
Yeah.
My eyes cross when
It's a
when I
lot.
talk to them. Yeah. Okay. If I taught undergrad courses, are those valid to get a teaching license?
So you would still need to go through the process of having either gone through the traditional route to get your bachelor's degree in education, which would include the student teaching and the testing. And if you have your bachelor's degree in education, then yeah, you could go ahead and go forward with pursuing that teaching license. Or if not, then you would probably have to go through the alternative licensing course. I've talked to professors, sometimes some of the people that call, and it's an interesting conversation because they are teachers, but teaching adults is a whole different ballgame than teaching youth and children and, you know, all of those ages. So there definitely is a pathway that needs to be taken to transition from higher education into the younger ages.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the experience that you had teaching those undergrad courses will help, especially if you intend to go through that alternative teacher pathway. Because in that realm, you're starting day one as a teacher and taking your coursework. So that experience that you had teaching undergraduate courses will definitely help, especially in those first few days. And I think I'm reading through, I think we got, oh, I guess there was a question. What is the best way to find out if your district has a program preference? Simply contact HR.
I think so, but I'm going to give this one to you, Heather, since you were an administrator. You'd probably know more about this than me.
Yeah, I would say definitely HR, or even the school principal would say. I would say most districts, they might have a preference, not necessarily a partnership. And then other districts are just needing you to get the license. And so they might go, I don't know, I don't care. And it's not that they don't care, but it just sounds like they may not have a preference. So I would definitely reach out to HR. And then the school principal would be the next contact. And if neither one of them have something in mind, then I would say you're free to pick whichever program that you would like. But another resource, if you're still a little cautious about just blindly picking one, survey the other teachers in the building and find out if they've completed the alt license and what program they completed and whether or not they were satisfied with it. Because sometimes it's nice to have that support network already built in of somebody who can help you walk through the process.
So we had a new one. When exactly can one start the application process? Is it after we have completed the courses for training? So the application process for your initial teaching license would come after you fulfilled the requirements. If you're doing the alternative licensure, it would be you completed all your coursework, you completed your observation hours, and you completed your testing. Then you would be able to start the application process.
I do have a couple questions. So in regards to that whole application process, it sounds like I apply for a program first and then I would go to CDE and do that application. Is that correct?
Yes, for the alternative license?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you would, sounds like you already got your job. And then enroll in an educator or a teacher prep program. Yes. And that because part of your application for your alternative license is that you will submit what we call a statement of assurance. And the
Right.
statement of assurance has to be signed by your employing school and by your teacher prep program. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
And is
Oh,
there a difference between 1-year programs and 2-year programs?
not really. I think it's really about the pace. So
Okay.
a lot of the alt license pathways are 1 year in length, and sometimes it can be a fairly intense pace.
Mhm.
And you can expect, I think the Aspire program says anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of work outside of your job weekly.
Okay.
And so a lot of those 1 year programs have the option to extend that licensure program for those that need it. So it really depends on pacing, I think, and how intense your
Okay.
program. One thing I did want to mention to you, Ariana, and really to anybody who's interested in the alt license pathway, is right now we have a program at CDE that offers up to $10,000 in financial assistance toward to be applied to your teacher preparation program. Part of the requirement is that you have to be working as an alternative licensed teacher.
Okay.
So that program, and the other caveat to it is the funds are awarded based on your commitment to a 3-year for teaching for 3 years in a Colorado public school. It's a great program because for a lot of these alt license programs, it can cover the entire cost. So which is nice. And then the other thing you'll want to know about it is this program opened in July. We award the funds until we run out. And so you're actually in a perfect position to not only qualify for this, but also we haven't awarded all the funds yet. So, but it's coming close. So the first application window closes the 30th of September. So once you enroll in an educator prep program, apply for your alt license, your very next step should be to apply for that ERR program too.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then another question. So I've seen your site, and I actually have an account with like the teach.org or whatever that one is. And I've looked at all the programs, and I've seen, just the basic rundown of like, okay, this is your tuition. This is kind of like what's required. Is like there's that section that says there's a test that's required before going into the program. Is that like the praxis for your endorsement area, or is that like, could you just go into a little bit more depth of that?
So when they say pre-test required, they are referring to that praxis test in your endorsement area. So I would say probably 90% of the programs are going to want you to have that completed before you apply to them.
Okay.
So if something, there are things in place. If you are testing and maybe you don't pass it the first time or something like that, CDE does have an interim license that you can apply for if you can't get that testing done on time to apply for the alternative license. So there are some kind of things to help you along, but they do want that test generally to be done before you apply for your educator prep program.
Okay. I guess that leads into my other question as well. I have a bachelor's in Spanish language and literature, and Spanish is what I am going to be teaching. So obviously, I have a lot of knowledge in Spanish. So do I still have to take that praxis to show that I'm knowledgeable in the area?
So for most alt license programs, it depends. It depends, I would say. Most programs want you to demonstrate content competency. And so because you have your bachelor's degree, you may not have to complete the praxis. So, do you know which program you're looking at?
I'm looking at the Pikes Peak BOCES, ones that really stood out to me, but obviously I'm still looking at more.
So, I don't know that they require it. So it would be something that you can inquire with them about. But as long as you're demonstrating content competency, and you're going through an alt license pathway, they may not require it. So,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, for someone coming into special education, is the praxis very, very